had me at Cello, Cello. You had me at Cello. You had me at Cello. Oh, you had me at Cello. Playing the cello has so many pluses. It never grows old. Good afternoon, everybody. 5 o'clock on a Friday again, and time for another episode of Cello Chat. With me this week, I am thrilled to have Ryan Louie. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on this Cello Chat podcast. And it's so exciting to share maybe a little insight of who I am and how I've made it this far.
Terrific, terrific. I can't wait, can't wait.
Yeah.
So let's get started with your musical story from the beginning. How did it all get started?
Sure. I was born in Queens, New York, to non-musicians. My parents, especially my dad, loved music. And from the earliest age that I can remember, I loved all genres of music. So my first favorite song was Hotel California by the Eagles. Really random for a little kid. But then I loved this compilation CD my dad had. Yeah, he had a bunch, but my favorite one was Mad About Violin. I don't know if you've ever heard of these, but they're just like famous violin pieces. Like Mendelssohn Violin Concerto was my first classical piece that I fell in love with. So with this, my public school makes everyone in the third grade, I think third to like sixth grade,
Okay.
everyone has to play an instrument, no matter like if you want to or not. You have to play it for 3 years, and which is I think an amazing thing. Didn't know what a cello was. Did like an instrument fair, and I really wanted to play the clarinet. My best friend was playing the clarinet. That was his choice. My mom really wanted me to play a string instrument, but she was like, "Oh, everyone's gonna play violin," and she didn't know what the viola was, so she picked the cello. Um, and that's how I got started. I started public school, and I liked it. I My favorite aspect about this moment in the cello journey was that I had a lot of friends playing because everyone was forced to play, and my parents, when I was maybe like a year in from the public school system or something, they got me a cello teacher, and then slowly got a little bit more involved. And then one of my brother's friends' parents or something suggested that I play for this cellist who taught at Juilliard. His name was Jesus Castro. His name is Jesus Castrobalbi, and he was still a doctoral student at the time. And I was like kind of practicing cello, not really. I was like proficient enough at that age, I guess, but nothing like I didn't have that inspiration or desire to get any better. And started studying with Dr. Castrobalbi, and I think I worked on four, 3 and 4 octave scales and the prelude of Bach 2 for like a year and a half, maybe that was it. And it was just, I wasn't putting in the effort. I wasn't practicing very hard. I didn't have the motivation. All my friends were doing like team sports and everything. And he was a great teacher and very patient. That was the thing. And he tried so many things to motivate me. Like he would bring me to his Juilliard pre-college program where I wasn't a student of, but I would go observe. And these kids were playing like hide and seek. That was the first time I heard hide and seek major cello concerto. And I still love classical music, but I didn't really want to um, play the cello to make that music. I would rather listen to recordings and whatever. And it wasn't until he was moving away and he told me that if I really wanted to get to the next level or pursue something, I could study with this teacher at Manhattan School of Music, Marion Feldman. And with the help of another teacher, another doctoral student, Dr. Vicky Wang, she teaches in, I think, near Stanford University now.
Okay.
She helped me get into the Manhattan School of Music pre-college my freshman year. Hated it. It was the most amazing opportunity that I think I'm glad I went through. But as a kid, I did not want to go to school on a Saturday, especially for music when all my friends were playing sports and everything. So that was really hard for me. the music making was great. I had a really hard time, I guess, like practicing and keeping up with everyone else. And it wasn't until like I think it was my sophomore year or junior year of my high school experience where my teacher then, Marion Feldman, made me audition for a summer music festival. Went there, and it blew my mind. Like I was playing with not only cellos but musicians, like kids from all over the country. The first orchestral program was Rite of Spring, and I remember calling my mom and being like, "Mom, this piece of music is 17 pages or something like that." And I was so blown away by how long it was, but like it was so hard. And yeah, and that was the music that was a summer that really transformed everything. I think I decided from that moment that cello had to be in my life. I didn't know if it was professional yet, though. I talked to my parents about it, and they were like, very supportive, but maybe not the most like happy at the like that instant.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, I could apply to colleges and like universities where you can study music and do other things. So I was like, okay, I could do that. Like I've always been doing a lot when I was a kid. Loved to play sports, loved to play music, loved to like. I guess I studied, but I don't know if I loved it. I was just very curious about things. So my ultimate options were to go to Carnegie Mellon University or Northwestern University. But Northwestern, I didn't get admitted into the music school, and this was a huge detriment to me. And I was like, maybe I'll just go do something else. But I knew deep down that cello was like a part of me, so I was like, I'll go to Carnegie Mellon. They, gave me a big scholarship, and yeah, I get to try other things. I was admitted into a science program there, and it was very hard. Started with like this mindset of the double major. Took some physics classes and did not do well, only because I realized I was spending all my time practicing cello. I was spending all my time making music with my friends, being in the College of Fine Arts. And my teacher at Carnegie Mellon at that time was David Primo. He's the second chair of Pittsburgh Symphony. And he was just so kind and supportive. And he had this beautiful velvet sound that I always like tried to emulate. And it was just so inspiring to be part of the music world. So then I was, to maybe the dismay of my parents, I was like, okay, I'm going to do a major in something. Oh no, at Carnegie Mellon, they had like one major that you can make, but it's like you could combine a science and an art. So I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I wanted to have music in that half. But then that glossed over really fast, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna be a cello major. And by the time I got to my junior year, I really wanted to try the conservatory style of learning. So I told my teacher, and he helped me get into the Royal Academy of Music in London. And Carnegie Mellon didn't have any ties there, so it was like, for me to make it happen, I had to take a year off from Carnegie Mellon, make sure I still had my scholarship when I came back, and then just do a year abroad and then transfer everything back.
Wow.
It worked. It worked amazingly. The only thing I had to double up, I had to like take an extra elective, so I took German my year back from London, which German's so useful in music, so I didn't mind. And yeah, studying in London was great. The opportunities were just so fun. Like you meet people from all over the world. And I remember, so Royal Academy of Music has like an instrument collection, and I signed up for a job there, and it was to just be the usher, I guess, at the instrument museum. They had Strads and Amatis and stuff. And I remember just sitting there like, either studying score or like doing homework. And like Stephen Isserlis would walk in with his cello and like go get it repaired. And I thought that was so cool just to be in that vicinity. Came back to the States, really was a tough decision, but I missed home. And so I came back to Carnegie Mellon. Then I was started to study with Anne Martindale Williams. She's the principal cellist of the Pittsburgh Symphony, and super inspirational for me. She was a very tough teacher, but she was so like musically inclined, and that's where my inspiration came from. It was just all about the music. Then I went to Cleveland Institute of Music for my master's. I studied with Dr. Melissa Kraut for 2 years there, and she helped. Based on what she said, I was kind of like this very inspired, but kind of like a mess of a cellist. And she helped organize me and help me practice much more efficiently. So that's my like, I just feel like I could practice very well. Like now I have I do a lot of other things, so it's like very necessary for me to be efficient. But yeah, she taught me how to like basically organize my cello life. And then after my master's, didn't know what I was really wanted to do. I was freelancing a lot in Ohio, playing with like Canton Symphony, Toledo Symphony, Akron Symphony, Dayton Philharmonic, chamber orchestras here and there. Just doing the freelance, the freeway orchestra thing. Was teaching, playing a lot of different chamber music gigs, and life was kind of comfortable. I was also studying with Mark Hossauer at the time. He graciously agreed to teach me. And it was I studied with him for about 1.5, 2 years, and it was some of the most fun I've had, like learning. It wasn't in a school setting, but I still got to go to studio class and everything, and I could devote my entire time to just learning from him. And then I stayed in Cleveland for about like 6 years, and then in 2018 I got a call from a Brazilian violinist who lives in Madison, actually, Vinicius Santana, and we went to a chamber music festival when we were younger, and he called me and he was like, "Hey man, are you interested in chamber music? Are you interested in auditioning for my quartet?" And I was, of course, that's like a cellist's dream words, to play in a string quartet. It's hard to make that always happen. It's hard to align 4 lives, I guess. So I took the audition very seriously, and I was like, wow, this is a chance to do something so different that I didn't plan to do. Auditioned, got the job, and moved to Wisconsin. I barely knew Vinny. I just knew him from a music festival. Blakely was Dr. Blakely Mangini is a violist. And then we were playing with another violinist at the time, and moved to Wisconsin. I was like, whoa, we get to just like study string quartets here. And from that was 2018 to 2022. I think those 4 years I grew so much as a musician, learning from everyone and playing chamber music like basically 24/7, and getting to like come up with really cool programs and everything. And then like we just decided like we wanted to do something different as a quartet. Our our goals were maybe a little like different than the residency we were. So I decided to get into something that I've been kind of wanting to do, technology. So that I did like a coding boot camp, all while playing in the Madison Symphony. Don't recommend that. It was a lot. And then I got a job at a company in Verona, Wisconsin called Epic, and moved to Madison with my wife. And now I still play cello. So that's what everyone always asks me, like, Ryan, do you still play cello? Of course, I play every day. Like, it's what keeps me sane.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's basically my journey.
That's a wild journey.
Yeah.
So I think I mean, we all have different journeys, of course, but I'm very curious to hear your answer to my question I ask everybody about motivation. I want to ask it in terms both of what your approach is to motivating your students to practice and to put in the time and effort and to advance further at the cello. But I'm also curious because in what you described, it sounded like there was far from being a fire to devote 24/7 to the cello all along. But then you mentioned some of the teachers that inspired you a great deal. So what in general do you think are kind of like the main pillars of motivation or inspiration?
Well, I think, okay, everyone needs inspiration, but inspiration is super it's almost fleeting sometimes. You know, you get so inspired and you're in the moment, you're making music, you're practicing really hard. This happens to me all the time, especially like what inspires me, and I know it's different from other people, is the music. I love listening to all styles of music, but especially when it comes to cello playing, I love listening to string quartets, symphonic works, solo cello works, and I love to hear the different musicians playing the same piece. And that always has been my inspiration. I used to like collect recordings of I maybe kind of still do, but I still collect recordings of the Bach cello suites that almost like anyone who's recorded it, I would have either the CD or it's put in my hard drive. But I think inspiration, as a musician, it's hard to rely on it all the time because some days you don't feel inspired to practice. So I think that's where, for me at least, I maybe over years of practicing, I built in routine. So even when I'm not motivated, I still feel like there's this deep down inside, like I should be practicing now. I should be like, if I'm not working on something, I should be playing cello. So over the years, I think it's different for everyone, but I definitely had to build this solid ground. And I know it's hard to do that. Like everyone wants a break too. And I think that's very important. Like you have to be able to step away and allow your mental game and your body to grow with all the cello, all the work you put into making music. I think from all my teachers have been inspirational in some way, and they've all kind of imparted me with certain I've taken from them all like different things. So from like, for example, my first teacher, Marion Feldman, I think she really imparted maybe two things. One was just organization of cello playing. Like one thing she always did was give me fingerings and bowings, and very intuitive and very, I guess, structured for a young cellist who just was like, you know, playing Bach C major and flying up and down the cello doing whatever. And that gave me some like a really good foundation and a base to grow on. And she also, she's the one who kind of made me stay humble, actually. I used to, coming from like a public school background, like if you play an instrument like decently well, you're kind of praised like a lot. And I remember at Manhattan School of Music, I had a senior recital and I was playing like Lalo Concerto, Brahms, E major sonata, or something like that. And it was okay, you know, I survived. Maybe it was like a decent high school level. And I remember I didn't have this like fire to be better. And I remember the lesson right after this recital, she sat me down and she told me like, she asked me like, was this your best playing? I don't know. Like and she was like, did you give it your full effort? Because to be honest, you could have done better. I could see. And she gave me this whole talk about how like I could have sounded better. And it was the first time someone like didn't praise me right away. And it was kind of like, there's more, Ryan. You're scratching the surface. And that really changed me. I'll never forget that. I like told her that, like just that one conversation. And then with David Primo, I mentioned his beautiful sound, but also his work ethic. He played in Pittsburgh Symphony. He's very busy. And he would teach a studio of like 10 college students. And he was known to teach at kind of strange hours, like wherever he could fit them in. So sometimes be after a concert, 10 p.m. lesson. and we loved the 10 p.m. As college kids, we loved the 10 p.m. lesson because Mr. Primo, as we called him, he was so generous with his time. So if you had that last lesson, there was no one after you, you could have a 2-3 hour lesson, which was pretty regular. And as young cellists, we loved it. Like he had so much energy, you couldn't even really tell he was tired. And yeah, he would drive us home. He would feel so bad. He would look at the phone and be like, "Oh my God, it's 11:30 on a Wednesday. Okay, take you home." But yeah, I love that he imparted his generosity and his time. Then with Anne Martindale Williams, she was so focus on the music. Everything was about music. Everything, when I studied the Dvorak cello concerto with her, and everything had to have some meaning, and it was really hard. It was really hard to just make sure you lived up to her expectation. And it was like, no matter how frustrated or maybe down I felt after the lesson, I was always inspired to do better. And I think that was my favorite thing about studying with her. And then with Dr. Melissa Kraut, I mentioned she really like organized my time and my playing and everything. Like, I used to just kind of maybe play cello more than practice cello. And I became much more analytical on how I wanted to fix things. Like, why wasn't this shift working? Why is my bow stroke not clean here? Maybe like I used to just keep trying. But I would, now you have to take a step back. You have to do some analysis on maybe it's the angle, or maybe there's too much tension in my shifting. And one of my favorite things that she said, I used to get frustrated that more time put into learning a piece doesn't make it just better. Like, sometimes it just, it's kind of stays stagnant. And I remember she compared it to learning to like exercising or weightlifting. She was like, Ryan, do you go to the gym and try to lift the heaviest weights you can just off the bat? Do you just go in and every day I'm going to try to lift this? No, you don't. Like, you have to take a step back, do lighter weights, and then you also give your body and your mind time to adjust. Like, there's a healing process. And I love this way of approaching, like, even now, like practicing. I don't try to practice the same thing over and over and over. Like, I used to do that for hours, and it's just kind of, it's almost like strenuous and sad. So now I like to take a step back. And then, of course, studying with Mark Hossauer, he is such an amazing player. It was always so inspiring to watch him play the instrument with so much ease. And I love that he cared so much about the music, similar to Anwar Dale Williams. And he challenged me a lot. I didn't like to play fast things. I didn't like to play hard things. I just love to play melodic, beautiful things. And I remember we were working on Kodai Sonata and the Schubert Arpeggione Sonata. Those are my last two things I studied with him. And the Arpeggione Sonata, I had such a struggle with that because it's something with so much finesse, it's so much beauty, and you can't just like muscle your way through it. And I remember one of my lessons, like when I got it to a decent level and I was ready to play it, he accompanied me on the piano, and it was so fun. I'll never forget that. But back to being motivated. I think it's a two-pronged thing. You have to have built-in, I guess routine is kind of not the best word, but like you have to have a structure in how you practice. So it's like your fail-safe. Like, when I don't play the cello, I feel kind of sad, or there's something missing. Mm-hmm. And that helps me get through the moments where maybe I'm not inspired. Mm-hmm. And when I'm not inspired, I try to find that inspiration. I try to listen to more music. That's for me what inspires me. I like to play with other musicians. Love to get work on chamber music projects, and just meeting new people playing music together. I think nowadays maybe I don't do it as often, but when I was in Cleveland, there was a really good community of people who just wanted to sight read music. Mm-hmm. And we used to go to my friend's apartment, and he had a 24-hour gym in the apartment. That it was like pretty soundproof because it's a gym, and no one would use the gym at like 11 p.m. and we would just sight read chamber music there, playing like string quartets until like 2 a.m. That's kind of what inspires me, just to play with friends, play music with other people.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great. Some really neat takeaways in that explanation and that survey too. And, just to kind of highlight, you definitely say or agree that when you feel like your time is paying off in terms of helping you get what you want and, you know, fixing those problems or getting you the sound that you want. That's a lot of motivation right there, right? You know,
yeah.
that the time that you're going to spend with your instrument isn't just putting X number of hours on the clock. I mean, even if you do sometimes have those days where the routine of it makes you feel this pull, I need to get my cello out and play it. But one of the things that also really helps you want to practice again the next time is knowing that it's going to accomplish a lot of good.
Yep.
But one other interesting thing, I mean, because you're into sports, you mentioned early on, I think you're a basketball person.
Yeah, I am a basketball person, despite my short stature.
All right, but you know, it's funny because I think just going back to the sports comparison, there are a lot of people for whom at least several, if not all, sports are more fun to play than to watch. You know, but it sounds like your relationship with music for a while was the greater enjoyment out of the listening to it than the playing it. And I just kind of wonder if, at least subconsciously, you were, you know, that time that you were kind of told by Feldman that you were just scratching the surface, you must have heard that there was more beyond the surface in those all those recordings of the Bach suites, for example, that kept drawing you in.
Yeah. Okay, about the Bach suites, I love that it's the same music and everyone had something else to say about it. And I think after, like, you know, you listen to you have the, you know, Pablo Costello's recording, you have you know, Truls Mork's recording, Ralph Kirschbaum, they all definitely share something different. And I don't know, I really liked sorry, could you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. It says internet connection unstable, so sorry. But I really liked just hearing something different and having a different presentation of something. And I think another thing that I've realized in the more recent years is that there's no stopping in growth and learning, especially with music. And for me, it's a little daunting, but it's also very fun. Like you can always grow and sound better, play a little bit better. And sometimes, you know, it's hard to track that. But I have this trick that I love to think just either a month ago what I was doing. Exactly, like this is 8:13 today, 7:13. That day, like try to imagine what I was playing, what I was preparing then, and what my struggles were and how they relate to now. And then I also do that a lot, these mind games with like a year ago. And I think we're lucky also with music in that when you learn a piece or play a piece, perform a piece, that's just one level and you get to like redo it again. So I love like analyzing how that journey is and like going back. Like I love practicing Haydn D major concerto or Dvorak concerto now compared to like when I really just couldn't do some of the things on the instrument. And now I mean those pieces are really hard, but it's still like, you know, it's a much better, I feel much more comfortable doing it. And I love that analysis, makes me always like inspired to do more and to grow more.
Yeah, that's excellent. And for example, in your time in the Griffin Quartet, I wonder if you agree on this too, that there are times that if you listen to a particular chamber ensemble, you can kind of tell if the cellist kind of always plays the part that way, or whether they're trying to push the envelope and play the bejeebers out of it, you know, and like just not take it for granted, not just go on autopilot. Do you think you can tell that sometimes in a chamber ensemble?
For sure. I love to say, and I learned this from all my colleagues in the quartet, like we're trying to make each other sound better. Yeah. Like every time like I'm supporting, you know, a violin melody, a viola melody, my goal is to put them up here and make them sound the best that they can sound. And over time with my colleagues in the Griffin, we got much more comfortable, slightly different. And that was also the great thing about being in a string quartet and playing concerts in different towns in Door County and Green Bay and in the Midwest. We got to recycle a lot of these programs, and every time was just so fun because we knew the music, we know it so well that we can kind of just talk to each other through our instruments. And
yeah,
that was my favorite part. And it's still like when we play together, it's super funny. Like I always say this to one of the violinists, Vinny, I'm like, is that in the music or are you making that up? Because it's always just like kind of fun to hear what they have to add in the moment.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I would like for you to talk a little bit. You talked for a while about having interests in music and science, and then it came back, and now you have the very technology-based job as well. I think that a number of the viewers of this either are, they may have parents that are encouraging them, well, just in case the arts thing doesn't work out, do you have something as kind of a second career that could be your main vocation? And then there are other people that, even if that's not the narrative from the parents, they just find themselves fascinated, equally fascinated by two different spheres. So how are you juggling the tech interests and the arts interests?
I want to preface this all by saying, no matter what you choose to do, you have to put in the maximum effort. You have to try like 100%, because I've had students who are like, who kind of want to give up after, a year of playing cello. When you play cello for a year, it's like you're getting, you got a lot of stuff done, but you're just scratching the surface. Like you have to keep going. Throughout my life, I've always been interested in things. I've always tried to give everything that I go into its due diligence, even if it's terrible, because I didn't like playing cello when I was little. I mentioned that earlier. Like it was tough to do Manhattan School music on Saturdays and not be with, go to your friend's birthday party. To be benched on the basketball team because I had a cello concert instead of going to practice. That was a lot, actually. So I barely got to play basketball. And I think you have to give, no matter what, the maximum effort. So if you decide to do something, I think it's okay to take risks and to try things out, but give it a 100% effort. So in 2020, around, I guess, the beginning of 2022, my quartet, we were, feeling like we wanted to do different things, and we were all a little older, starting to get to that phase where we wanted to, have families, maybe have own property or something. And these discussions didn't happen overnight, so it took a while. But I decided, and based on I had a lot of colleagues and friends who did this tech boot camp. It's called Tech Elevator. It's based in Ohio, but they have classes, virtual classes now. So during the pandemic, a lot of my friends did this because unfortunately they couldn't make music. And a lot of them either did, from like a outside perspective, they either still play music or they just totally do something else. And I think that's perfectly fine. Like you could do whatever you feel like is your path. But I definitely was like, okay, if I jump into this, if I do this coding boot camp, I'm 100% playing cello. And I know maybe it's from my parents or from my early teachers, I could put in the hours. I know myself personally. Maybe it's bad to say this, but stress is like, I don't know. I feel like I function pretty well with stress.
All right.
So I decided, we're gonna leave this quartet job. We still play as a quartet, but we're gonna leave that residency, and I'm gonna do this boot camp. And got accepted. It was a 3-month full-time course. So we met since the class was based on the East Coast time, but I live in Wisconsin, so my class started at 8 p.m. for me, 8 a.m. for me, and based on the rest of the day ends around 5 or 6, and if you have homework that you couldn't finish, could go later. So I decided, I was like, okay, I'm gonna wake up an hour earlier than I planned to. Like for 8 a.m. class, I would wake up at 7. I'm gonna wake up at 6. I'm gonna get an hour of practice in before the class, I'm gonna do just technical stuff. So I'm gonna do the morning like scales, I have like routines, and I do a lot of Fouillard exercises and etudes, just to keep my chops up and just to keep like mentally focused for me. And that was the thing. I used cello as a huge mental crutch. I love playing cello now. Like it just feels so good. So when I was stressed with the coding boot camp, I would practice cello. But I did this morning routine. Now I'm gonna preface this, it wasn't sustainable. I did it for maybe a month. And then by the second month of the boot camp, it was way too much work and I was way too stressed. So I had to do something different. And it's okay, you adapt.
Yep.
I was decided I would mix in doing like the assignments and the projects with practice, break it up here and there. That was very good. And I would do, like I mentioned earlier, I would do this crazy thing where I would take the class, then go drive to Madison, and like during the class I would have different videos, or like I found like a lot of technical coding bootcamp teachers on YouTube. YouTube's such a great tool.
Yep.
And I would listen to the same a different lecture on the same topic while driving to Madison, playing the symphony, come home, like rinse and repeat. And it was tough, but what doesn't kill you builds character, I guess. But yeah, so then I finished the boot camp. It was not easy for me. I know almost all my friends, I think, who did it before, I think all of them got jobs right after and got great opportunities. I did not graduate with a job. Well, I guess it was also Christmas time, so like no one hires during Christmas and New Year's. And I took a nice big vacation with my wife, went to Mexico City, and we came back and I was like, I'm gonna apply to jobs now. I'm gonna go hard into this. And I think I applied to like 72 coding jobs. Yeah, I think it was in the high 60s or low 70s. I got to different rounds for a bunch of them, and one of my friends was like, she was in the class and she made it to the final round of the Epic interview. So Epic is electronic healthcare company, probably the electronic healthcare company in America. Everyone knows like MyChart, but they do a lot of other things. Like I work on the anesthesia app, super random. Had to learn a lot of clinical things about anesthesia, which I'm still learning about. But anyways, to get into Epic, especially for my role, you don't need a computer science degree. You have to pass their exams, and they're notorious for these exams because they're pretty challenging. I think the statistics are like 96-97% of the people don't pass these exams. And I took it, I felt really good about it. And at the end of that exam, I was rewarded with an interview and or like the final interview, because I did interviews before then, and then a coding exam. So another 4-hour exam. And I was like, what? Like I did all that stuff before. So I had to go through another round of exams, and they were very hard. I was very stressed. Got through them, and like 2 weeks later, I got a job offer. It's like kind of shocked, honestly. I was like, whoa, I was a cellist like just a few months ago. And now like I passed. And it didn't really hit me until day one when I got there. My wife and I, we lived in Appleton at the time, and we were like, we wanted to move. We were thinking about moving to Chicago or Madison because we had a lot of friends there. But if you work for Epic, you have to live near Verona. So we moved to Madison, and I remember day one, I go into this place. I'm like, whoa, where am I? For people who don't know Epic, you should Google the campus because it's like Willy Wonka's like chocolate factory is a building there. They have like slides. It's a little wild. But yeah, I started doing this thing, coding thing. I'm still in training. I'll be hitting 6 months in September, and then there's 1 year requirements too, all while working with like different hospitals across the country. So I'm paired with like 6 hospitals, working with anesthesiologists and analysts on the anesthesia app for Epic. So basically, this app helps doctors give anesthesia to patients. And for me, I didn't just get a tech job. Well, okay, I wanted a tech job because it's stability. It gives you opportunities to, like, for me to have a family and maybe buy a house one day. But also, I love that it was assisting people, helping people. And that's one thing that I tied to playing in the Griffin Quartet. We did so much outreach and playing for underserved children, playing for people with Alzheimer's and dementia, and doing a lot of projects like that. So it made me feel good. I still feel good about it. And yeah, it's like I'm actually making some kind of an impact and not just like doing computer stuff because I wanted to. But yeah, I think, okay, maybe that was a long-winded, I'll circle back. No matter what you decide to do, I think it's important to take chances and to take risks, but to go into them like 100% of the effort. If you know you've done that, then it's okay to fail, because it's okay that it didn't work out and you could reassess what you did. But if you put in like 80% and let's say it didn't work out, what if you put in 20%? Like, you would have that thought in your mind, like, oh, if I did a little bit more. Now, to say this, it was really hard. It still is a challenge every day. I was the oldest hire on my team at the time. So there's 3 people hired for the anesthesia app in March. And yeah, one finished his master's and just came straight out of school. The other one finished undergrad, came straight out of school. So I was an older person, had another career, which is maybe not the most common thing at Epic. A lot of people are young, but everyone knew me as, oh, you're the cellist. And it was funny because they wanted a picture for their ID, and you just submit whatever picture you have. I submitted a headshot of mine with my cello. I thought that was, I still really like it. I think it's really cool that I did something else before, and I still do something else, I think. But it's tough. I'm not gonna say it's easy. There are definitely like, people ask me to do things now, and the only thing I want to do when I come home is be with my wife or practice cello. Like, I don't want to, like, I will sacrifice, going out on a Friday. Honestly, I want to practice this music for this chamber music festival I'm playing. So it depends, it's really hard. And I think everyone has to find their own personal balance. And not everyone's going to be the same. Like, for me, it's still important that I play at a very high level. And I don't know if this will stay like this. It could change. Maybe in a year, I'm like, okay, maybe I feel okay if I don't play cello all the time. But as of now, I still, like, I was practicing before this call. Like, I still want to sound good. And I still challenge myself. I remember someone asked me to play a prelude and a postlude at a church service. And 3 to 5 minutes, they suggested some Bach suites. And I could have played, I don't know, an easier one, but I was like, I'm playing Bach 6 Prelude. I haven't played this since maybe my master's day. I'm playing this. And it was super fun. Like, nice. Yeah, it just, yeah, I think everyone's little routine is different, and you just have to analyze it. You have to take a step back too. That's like how you know if it's working or if it's not working. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot to think about, Ryan. A lot to think about, but lots of great words of wisdom. Great advice. Really.
I think I learned a lot from a lot of, like, I don't want to say mistakes, but like, not everyone's path is like growing straight up, right? Like, you have little hitches here and there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds to me like you have the bug for the cello enough. I bet you'll still be playing it at a high level for indefinitely. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, and
Mhm.
best of luck with the continued juggling that we all do
Mhm.
of the various priorities and keeping artistic expression in our lives, finding the right balance.
Yeah,
So
I think
important.
it's important to take chances. I think if any young listener, young cellist is here, don't worry. Okay, definitely analyze the situation, but don't worry too much about like the negatives. Like, oh, I'm not gonna get into this program if I apply, or oh no, like this is gonna take too much time. Like, I think it's important to recognize those, but like go for things, take the chance. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's as inspiring as it gets. That's
Mhm.
great.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thanks again, Ryan,
Mhm.
and best of luck to you all out there practicing all weekend, all
Mhm.
week, and we'll see you this time next Friday.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You had me at jello.